The opening scene fades on Alex, a young architect sitting at a sleek, minimalist desk in a sterile, high-rise apartment. Around him are dozens of sketches, each a different vision for a new project, each more complex than the last. He stares blankly at a screen displaying an endless scroll of design options, his face a mask of weary indecision. This is a scene of creative passion. It's one of quiet torment. We see a close-up of his hand, hovering over the mouse, trembling slightly. The voiceover, in a deep, reflective tone, begins. We were sold a lie, the lie of infinite possibility. They told us that with enough options, we would find freedom. But what they didn't tell us is that with every new door that opens, another kind of cage is built. A gilded one, perhaps, but a cage nonetheless. This is the core conflict of our story, the central theme of the book we're adapting, the paradox of choice. Alex represents a modern person, drowning in a sea of opportunities, paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice. He's not a victim of poverty or a lack of opportunity. He's a victim of too much of it. The narrative shifts to a flashback. We see a younger, more vibrant Alex, a college student walking through a bustling campus. He's animated, talking excitedly about the future. "I can go anywhere, do anything," he tells his friend, a wistful smile on his face. "The world is my oyster." We fast forward to a montage of his career progression. New job offers, invitations to exclusive conferences, dating app profiles, and an endless carousel of potential partners. Each image is a testament to his success and the promises of a life without limits. But the music shifts from triumphant to subtly dissonant, a low hum beneath the surface. The camera lingers on his tired eyes, the faint lines of stress around his mouth. The freedom he chased, the freedom of infinite choice, has become his greatest burden. It's a subtle nod to the book's central thesis, that freedom is not found in the expansion of options, but in the courage to limit them. A key passage from our fictional book might be narrated here. The soul, much like a human body, can only process so much. To pour a river into a cup is to lose it entirely. The same is true for choice. When every path is a possibility, no single path can be walked with conviction. We become tourists in our own lives, sampling everything but committing to nothing. Alex's journey is a direct illustration of this. We see him in a crowded coffee shop, unable to decide what to order, watching as the line behind him grows, his anxiety rising. We see him scrolling through a streaming service for hours, finally giving up and just go to bed, exhausted by the mental effort. His life, a masterpiece of potential, is being chipped away by the relentless demands of endless possibility. The turning point for Alex, the first step away from chaos and toward a flicker of nirvana, comes not from a new opportunity, but from a deliberate act of subtraction. We see him in his apartment, but this time, he's not adding to the clutter of sketches. He's taking them down. He gathers them into a neat pile, then selects just one. The shot is still focused on a single design. It's not the most extravagant or the most daring, but it is one he truly believes in. He crumples up the rest of the pages, a quiet, almost sacred act of renunciation. This simple, decisive action is his first step toward reclaiming his agency. He's no longer reacting to a world of endless choices. He's actively creating his own. The voiceover returns, softer this time, filled with a newfound clarity. True freedom is not found in having everything, but in choosing what truly matters. It is a liberation that comes from letting go of the noise, of the fear of missing out, and finally, of the illusion of unlimited choice. The scene opens on Alex, not in a sterile apartment, but in a small, bustling workshop filled with a scent of sawdust and fresh paint. He's working on a detailed architectural model. The single design he chose to commit to, his hands moving with a sense of purpose and calm we haven't seen before. He's happy. A friend walks in, a colleague from his old life, looking at him with a mix of curiosity and pity. "You're really doing it, huh?" The passion project. The voice is laced with a hint of condescension. Alex smiles, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. The voiceover returns, more complex now. They tell us to follow our passions. It's the ultimate gospel of the self-help era. We're led to believe that if we just find what we love, the rest, the money, the stability, the freedom, will fall into place. But what happens when the very thing you love becomes a job? What happens when the magic of creation is replaced by deadlines, client demands, and the constant gnawing pressure to turn a dream into a paycheck? The narrative flashes back to Alex in his early days, sketching out designs for fun, a lighthearted hobby he did in his spare time. We see the pure joy on his face, the unburdened creativity. But then the montage begins again, this time showing the slow, insidious transformation. We see him turning down social invitations to work late, the coffee cups piling up on his desk, the excitement in his eyes being replaced by a frantic, weary determination. The passion that was once a source of light has become a demanding master. The book's central argument is subtly introduced through the sequence. The difference between a passion and a vocation is the freedom it gives you. A passion gives you joy. A vocation demands your entire being, often at the cost of your peace. We hear another excerpt from our fictional book. Passion is a fire that can warm you, but it can also consume the house you live in. The world romanticizes the starving artist, the obsessive visionary. But true freedom is not a life of self-sacrifice. It is a balance between the work that fulfills you and the life that sustains you. The greatest illusion is to believe that the two must always be the same. This is Alex's new struggle. The joy of his chosen project is now tinged with the stress of making it financially viable. He's no longer sketching for himself. He's sketching to meet a deadline, to secure a loan, to prove to his old colleagues that he didn't make a mistake. The very act that once brought him nirvana is now a potential source of a new kind of chaos. The climax of the scene comes when he receives a text message, a job offer from his old firm. It's a lucrative position with a stable salary, health benefits, and a predictable schedule. He looks from his hands, covered in sawdust and paint, to the phone in his hand. The contrast is stark. This is the moment of truth. Does he surrender his passion to the demands of a chaotic yet stable world? Or does he find a new way forward? One that honors his craft without sacrificing his well-being? In a decisive act, he turns off his phone and walks to the back of the workshop, where a single, simple design hangs on the wall, the one he chose at the end of the last scene. He's not abandoning his project. He's taking a step back to reevaluate. He is learning that his passion is a part of him, not the entirety of him. The voiceover concludes, the path to nirvana isn't paved with passion alone, but with the wisdom to know its limits. The truest freedom is the one that allows you to love what you do, without it becoming the only thing you are. The scene opens on Alex in his workshop, but the atmosphere has changed. He isn't working on the model. Instead, he's sitting on the floor, his back to the clutter, eyes closed. His voice, now calmer and more introspective, begins a narration. We spend our entire lives running from silence, from solitude, from discomfort. We fill our days with noise, with distractions, with the endless pursuit of happiness that always seems just out of reach. But what happens when we stop running? What happens when we turn around and face what scares us head on? This is a new phase of Alex's journey, the part of the story where he realizes that freedom isn't just about what you choose to do, but about what you choose to confront. The narrative flashes back to a moment in his childhood. We see a younger Alex falling off his bicycle and scraping his knee. Instead of crying, he gets up quickly, brushes off the dirt, and pretends nothing happened. His father, a stern man, watches him from a distance, giving a nod of approval. The script suggests he was taught from an early age to repress discomfort, pain, and vulnerability. This lesson followed him into adulthood, manifesting in his aversion to conflict, his tendency to avoid difficult conversations, and his search for quick, easy solutions. The chaos in his life didn't just come from external choices, but from a deep refusal to accept the reality of his own pain. A passage from the book that connects to the scene would be, the armor we build to protect ourselves in the world is, in fact, the prison that prevents us from truly living. Discomfort is a hammer that breaks the chains of illusion, revealing the strength that was always there dormant. The scene returns to the present. Alex, still on the floor, gets up and begins to clean the workshop. He's no longer focused on building the model, but on organizing the space around him. He picks up a piece of sandpaper and begins working on a small piece of wood, the soft, repetitive sound of friction filling the silence. It's not a glamorous or exciting task. It's tedious and requires patience. And that's precisely why he chose it. He is forcing himself to be present, to accept the monotony and to find peace in the process rather than the result. The script shows the sweat on his brow, the exhaustion in his eyes, but also a serenity that wasn't there before. He's no longer running. He's surrendering to the moment. The climax of this topic is a moment of pure vulnerability. Alex, on a call with a friend, finally confesses the pressure he feels, his fear of failure, and the exhaustion that has consumed him. His voice trembles, but he doesn't look away. For the first time, he isn't pretending he's okay. He is allowing the discomfort of honesty to set him free. The conversation doesn't solve all his problems, but it is a crucial step. The friend, instead of offering solutions, simply listens. And in that act of being heard, of having his pain acknowledged, Alex finds a new kind of freedom. It's not the freedom of having everything, but the freedom of being himself with all his imperfections and fears. The narration concludes with Alex returning to his piece of wood, now with a new purpose. And so, he learned that nirvana is not a place without pain, but a place where pain no longer has power over you. Freedom is not the absence of discomfort, but the courage to face it. With every moment of silence, every difficult conversation, every step taken toward his own truth, he was, in fact, setting himself free. The scene opens with Alex in a state that appears to be peaceful. He's in his workshop, with under his hands. The environment is silent, lit by natural light pouring into the window. For a moment, it seems he has reached his nirvana. Then, the sound of a notification breaks the silence. A small ding from his phone, sitting on the workbench. He ignores at first, but the notification repeats. He picks up the phone and the screen lights up, revealing a universe of interruptions. Client emails, messages from colleagues, the endless scroll of social media, breaking news alerts. The blue light illuminates his face, and the look of peace dissolves, replaced by a familiar tension. His voice, now with a tone of resignation, resumes the narration. We think freedom is having access to everything, but in reality, it's having the freedom not to be accessed by everything. Our attention has become the most valuable currency on the planet, and without realizing it, we become prisoners of small devices that promise to connect us, but which in reality isolate us from the present moment. The narrative shifts to a montage that contrasts before and after. We see a younger Alex in conversations with friends, fully present, laughing and gesturing. This scene is juxtaposed with an adult Alex at a dinner table, but with his head bowed over his phone, the screen's glow reflected in his glasses. We see him lying in bed. Instead of reading a book or just resting, he's compulsively scrolling through a feed, the darkness of the room cut only by the artificial light. The book's metaphor is introduced here, with a passage that reads, "The greatest war of our time is not fought on battlefields, but in the silent, dark nights of the bedroom, where the enemy is our own inability to disconnect." Digital chaos is the whirlpool that pulls us down, away from reality, away from ourselves. For Alex, the internet wasn't just a tool. It was a portal to a version of himself that sought external validation, incessant comparisons, an illusion that other people's lives were always more interesting than his own. The turning point in this topic occurs when Alex realizes that true freedom isn't about controlling information, but about controlling himself. The scene shows him try to work on design, but every few minutes, the phone screen lights up, interrupting his flow. He picks up the device, checks a message, looks at a notification, and time simply slips through his fingers. He's frustrated with himself. In a moment of clarity, he stands up and places the phone in a drawer. The action is simple, almost mundane, but the impact is enormous. He returns to his workbench and, for a long period, the only thing we hear is the sound of wood being worked. He is finally present. He is in the moment. His productivity increases, but more importantly, his peace returns. The quietness of the workshop becomes a sanctuary against the bombardment of the outside world. The climax is a scene where Alex, instead of reaching for his phone to fill a moment of boredom, picks up a book. The image is powerful. The light from the window on the pages, the silence, the act of focusing on a single thing. He is consciously choosing the nirvana of presence over the chaos of distraction. The narration concludes with reflection. Freedom is not given. It is earned moment by moment, each time we choose a piece of the present over the chaos of the digital. The chains that bind us are not made of steel, but of pixels and notifications. And the first step toward freedom is simply to turn it off. The scene opens with Alex's phone ringing. The notification, which he now consciously keeps on silent, flashes discreetly on the screen. He's in his workshop, his peace restored, working with a focus he thought he had lost. The call is from his old boss, and Alex hesitates for a moment. The narration with a suspenseful tone begins. We were taught that generosity is always a virtue, that saying yes to every request, every favor, every opportunity is a path to success and acceptance. But what happens when your generosity becomes your prison? When your inability to say no steals not only your time, but your very peace? This is Alex's new challenge, to face the external pressure to return to chaotic habits, even after he has found his inner sanctuary. The narrative shifts to a series of flashbacks showing Alex's behavioral patterns. We see a younger Alex in a group project, doing most of the work while the others watch. We see him accepting extra hours at work, even when he was exhausted. The script shows the forced smile on his face, the anxiety in his eyes. He was a nice guy, the reliable one, the always available. The book's passage that fits here is narrated. Yes, it's the shortest path to approval, but also the fastest route to burnout. No is the word the world fears, but it is the only key that can unlock the door to your freedom. It is an act of self-defense, a declaration that your inner peace is non-negotiable. For Alex, the approval of others was always an antidote to his own insecurity. Saying yes was easier than facing the potential disappointment or rejection from someone. The scene returns to the present, with the phone still ringing. Alex takes a deep breath. He thinks about all the late nights, the commitments he accepted just to avoid conflict. He thinks about his own journey, the search for a life with less chaos. The call stops and then a text message arrives. Alex, I'm in a bind. I need your help with a project. It's urgent. The text is followed by a sad face emoji, a classic tactic of manipulation. Alex looks at the message and feels the old pressure, the urge to jump in and help, to be the savior. But something has changed inside him. He's no longer the same Alex. He is no longer defined by the need for approval. The climax of this topic is a response that Alex types. He doesn't ignore the message, nor does he justify himself at length. He types a simple but firm response. I'm sorry, but I can't help it this time. I need to focus on my own work. I wish you the best of luck. The act of pressing send is a moment of pure liberation. It's the first time he puts his own peace and his own needs before those of someone else. He feels no guilt, but a deep sense of relief. His voice, with new authority, narrates the scene. No is not a word of rejection, but protection. It's not a barrier to others, but a boundary you set for yourself. By saying no, you are saying yes to your mental health, to your sanity, to your own journey. The final scene shows Alex returning to his model, the quietness of the workshop back in place. He is no longer worried about his ex-boss's reaction. He is no longer trapped by others' expectations. He has finally understood that freedom is not in having the right to do everything, but in the power to choose what not to do. He is, for the first time, truly in control of his own life. The scene opens on a sunny morning. Alex is in his workshop, not working, but simply standing, watching the light stream in through the window. The room is organized, the tools in their proper places, the model almost finished. His voice, now filled with serenity that transcends mere calm, begins a narration. We spend our entire lives trapped by ghosts, the regrets of if only I had done that, and the anxieties of what if that happens. We live in a limbo of times that don't exist, losing the only moment that is real, the only place where life happens, the here and now. For Alex, chaos was not just an external state of his life, but an internal state of his mind, a constant echo between what was and what could be. The narrative flashes back to a series of images that capture this wandering mind. We see a younger Alex on a date, but the camera focuses on his face, which shows worry about an email he hasn't responded to. We see him on vacation on a beach, but instead of admiring the ocean, he's visualizing a presentation he has to give next week. His voice narrates a final passage in the book. The past is a mirror, the future is a fog. Only the present is a window, and most of us keep it closed, prefer to look at the reflection and the uncertainty. Freedom is not a destination, but a daily practice of opening that window and simply breathing the air in front of us. The scene returns to the present, with Alex. This time, he is not avoiding a call or fighting a digital addiction. He is simply there, present. The script focuses on the details, the sound of the soft wind, the texture of the wood under his fingers, the sunlight on his face. He sits down in a chair, not to do a task, but to simply exist. He watches a bird land on the windowsill, and instead of thinking about something he needs to do, he just watches it. It's a moment of clarity, of acceptance. He has finally understood that the value of life is not in the grand achievements, but in these small moments of pure presence. The climax of this scene is a silent meeting. A friend of his, the same one who accompanied him in the other stages of the journey, walks into the workshop. Instead of asking about the project or work, he just sits down next to Alex. For a few minutes, they don't say a word. They just share the same space, the same quietness. There is no need to fill the silence with words or distractions. This is the peak of Alex's freedom. He no longer needs to prove anything to anyone, not even to himself. He can simply be. Alex's voice concludes the narration, echoing the complete transformation of his journey. Nirvana is not a state of absence, but totality. It's not the absence of problems, but the total presence in each of them. I stopped asking what if and started accepting what is. And in the act of accepting the present, I finally found freedom. The freedom that is not earned, but discovered. The freedom that was always here, waiting for me to finally see it. The journey from chaos to nirvana is a path we walk every day, one choice at a time. So, what's one choice you're making today to find your own peace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If Alex's story resonated with you, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. Join us as we continue to explore the choices that shape our freedom. We'll see you in the next one.